Welcome back to AV Veterans Talk. We're continuing our conversation with this week's guest, Bob Abrams. So, Bob, high school, working at Rocketdyne with your dad, and came the time Vietnam was ramping up, and you volunteered. What inspired you to join the military? Was it just
remember
something?
back in those days, we all had to serve the military in some fashion, either enlist or be drafted.
Correct.
And my older brother had just gotten out of the military. He served in Germany, as a matter of fact.
Nice.
And became a member of the Los Angeles Police Department. I, however, had decided that I wanted to be a naval airman because if you're going to fly jet fighters, and you land on aircraft carriers.
Right.
So I wanted to do that, and I was signed up for the Naval Aviation Program. And I went to my brother's graduation from the LAPD Academy. Back up just a little bit, what I was qualified for with math and science and everything else in school was they told me navigator. I don't want to fly backseat to anybody, so I said, no, I'm signing on to be a pilot. He said, well, we will fix that all in ground school. I didn't trust him.
Well, of course.
He's a recruiter, after all.
Right, absolutely.
I was 19, and I started thinking about, well, when I went to my brother's graduation from the academy, first of all, there's a lot of pomp and circumstances to a Los Angeles Police graduation ceremony anyway.
Right.
And they had a deputy chief, I think his name was Murdoch, was the master of ceremonies and the speaker, said that in 35 years of police work, or just going to work, he never once regretted having to get up and go to work. Well, that's magical to me because I have a very low boredom threshold anyway.
Yeah.
To be bored at work or when I worked at Rocketdyne, it was okay, but it was like, putting cog on the wheel. And so I took that to heart, going, that's fantastic. So I went back and talked to my Navy recruiter, and we discussed it. And I said, what are my realistic chances of becoming a pilot? And he really couldn't commit to me. So I said, then forget it. I'm going to be a policeman. Well, not to waste the time in the Army, you got to go anyway. You can enlist and ask for the military police, and you will get it. Or enlist and ask for a particular place where you want to go, and you can get it. You're right. Gearing up for Vietnam was at the time we all assumed that sooner or later you're going to be serving in Vietnam. So
right.
I voluntarily enlisted and got military police school. So I had 3 years of kind of police work. I say.
Yeah.
Military police a little bit different than the city police.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I did my 3 years. My first assignment on the military police school, however, was the Dominican Republic, not Vietnam, which shocked me because when you graduate your class, these guys stand over here, those guys stand over there, and you guys are going to Vietnam, and you guys are going to Dominican Republic. What's that?
Yeah, where's that?
Where is that? It's a combat zone.
Yeah.
Well, it's the other half of the island of Haiti, and Dominican Republic are down in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
And they're having a problem with the communist government, or the communists were trying to take over the government. And the Organization of American States, that's South American troops and American troops, all band together like North American Treaty Organization went for South America, and deployed down there to make sure that the election was fair and that the communists would lose.
So there was no voter influence going on down there. Wow. So
they went down. There was some combat in the beginning. The Marines hit the beach, and the 82nd Airborne they came at the airport, and this huge bridge called the Duarte Bridge. It was a kind of a race to see who was going to get there first, because all the rebels were on one side of the bridge where the Marines landed. So the 82nd, they more or less got pinned down on the other side of the bridge. The Marines came all the way up and took the bridge from the other end. So after that, it was more riots. It was a quiet time. So when we got there, we were stationed in big 20-man tents on the palatial grounds of the ex-king or whatever he was.
Well, right.
Not the president, but anyway. We had an Olympic-sized pool. It was like heaven.
Oh, wow.
And Caribbean weather, except for one hurricane, but it was beautiful for the first 3 months. The last 3 months is they had their election, and now they wanted us out.
Yeah.
That's when you saw the Yankee go home, painted on the walls, and the riots began. And the United States Army's riot control weapon of that day was an M48 tank. It's the only one to fit down these narrow streets.
Narrow streets, yeah.
Very effective.
Yeah, I bet.
I'm proud of 7,000 dispersed immediately when that thing rolled in. So.
That tank coming down at them. Yeah.
So I learned how to patrol a town in combat and riot control. under combat conditions, a little bit different than riot control, let's say in L.A.
Yeah.
So went from there back to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Once they pulled us all out. I was at Fort Bragg for about a year, and I'd had enough of stateside duty. I had made sergeant. So I volunteered for Vietnam. So I figured that, once again, I had a sense of duty that if I'm in the Army and that war's going on and it's gearing up, that's where I should be.
Yeah.
And to be quite honest, doing police work on the Fort Bragg, North Carolina, it's an airborne base. You have the 82nd Airborne, the 173rd Airborne, and the 101st who rotate in and out of Vietnam. So they're all combat troops. So you're not doing police work with innocent civilians. Everybody you have contact with is a trained soldier.
Soldier, right.
So I figured, well, you're going to take those kind of chances anyway. Might as well do it in Vietnam. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and, during that time period, the country was, obviously you'd come out of the Cuban Missile Crisis. We'd lost a president, and everything was really kind of chaotic. Chaotic, I guess, is the right word to say. We really didn't know where we were going to, as a nation, where we were headed. And it was Johnson, you were during the Johnson, obviously,
yes.
Segment there of his service. And, when you saw these guys rotating back, obviously you interacted with some guys before you went over.
Yes.
And they gave you an idea of what to expect or what it was going to be like over there?
Not until I volunteered to go. We also had the Green Berets. That's their home base also. I had some friends that were Green Berets. I got in with them, and they taught me a lot of things I needed to know.
Yeah.
What kind of weapons they were using, their booby traps, what kind of explosives they were using. So I'd be just one up and a little bit ahead of the game when I got in country. Being a sergeant, when you get there, you're immediately going to have guys assigned to you that you're responsible for.
Yeah,
so I wanted the education, especially with the Green Berets.
Yeah.
So I interacted with them more than anybody else. So.
Yeah. Okay. We'll take a break, and when we come back here, we'll get into that deployment to Vietnam and leave the party island of Dominican Republic behind. Okay.
Yes.
Because I know you were there during a very contentious time period there in Vietnam. So we'll be right back here with Bob. I'm Bob Alvis, and thanks for joining us for this segment of AV Veterans Talk.